pass the microphone over to MacDonald, and he'll go over a few things with us.
Thank you very much, Ian. We set up the room a little bit differently tonight, just to try and make sure that people had a place to sit, because there may be an opportunity for you to do some writing. We're going to be passing out some documents in a minute. I want to thank everybody for coming out. It takes a lot, sometimes to get people out to a meeting, and we really appreciate it. Hopefully, this is going to be our last meeting as a group. We're going to turn it over to somebody else after this, but I want to take an opportunity to thank Jamie Cameron and Terry Landon from REMAX. They're both here, and they represent the REMAX with the hospital board. The hospital board has contracted with them to sell the building, and they're here as representatives. In terms of process, we turn the official offer, we make an offer, we turn it over to them. I would like to go through, before we get into the offer, we're going to be passing out the documents for everybody, but before I do that, again, it's in terms of process as to how we got where we're at. The hospital went for sale. In January, we had a public meeting here. And at that public meeting, we talked about having the hospital used for the common good and the social benefit of the community with a focus on seniors. We had that meeting here. It was a unanimous motion for us to contact the minister and ask her to give us time to put in a proposal. The minister stated that if the community had a proposal, she encouraged us to bring it forward. She stated that publicly. So she wanted the community to bring a proposal forward. We sent an open letter to the mayor and council urging them to make a community proposal. That was in January. The hospital board met with the mayor and council and told them at that time that it was not negotiable. In other words, they're going to sell the building. That's what brings us to where we are today. In terms of timing, the offers started on the 25th of February. They started to accept the offers, and they have until March the 7th, or they're bringing them to the hospital board by March the 7th. That's why it's important that if we have a community proposal, that we make sure it's on the table. We had a meeting at MacDonald Manor. It was an open public meeting, and at that meeting we asked for the city council to support forming a task force to make sure that the hospital remained for the common good and social benefit with the focus on seniors and seniors issues. That motion was brought forward, I think, by Councillor Rivette and Dupel. It was passed unanimously to look for to start a task force with a broad spectrum of all the groups that were interested in seniors issues. In other words, the health board, all the stakeholders, anybody that would have a stake in it. Now that was back a couple of weeks ago. Now right after that motion, or right after that meeting, the next morning, the story broke about a similar situation, and this is kind of a fundamental point in the timeline, is that they did a similar thing to a hospital in Barrie 10 years ago. The same vision that we have for this building, in other words, seniors housing, long-term care, ministry offices. They use it as a multi-use facility focused on issues affecting seniors. They did it in Barrie, and they went through a process. So what we're doing is we're following that same process, and that's what brings us here tonight. In other words, they've done it already, so we're just going to do the same thing. Okay, so that's what brings us here tonight. So what happens then in terms of process, because we want to make sure we have our proposal in and that we have all our T's crossed and our I's dotted, so to speak, I notified the hospital board and said that the Minister of Health told us if we had a proposal to bring it directly to the hospital board. She's encouraging us. She uses the word encourage. She's encouraging us to do that. So I notified the board and said that we're working on putting an offer together. We'd like to present it to the board. They directed me to REMAX, and that's what brings us here this evening. So we drafted, you can pass them out now.
They're gone.
Oh, they're gone. Everybody's, okay, so what we did is we had a small working group draft up, you can sit anywhere, folks. we had a working group draft up a document. So what this is, it's a working document. It's an offer to purchase. So what we do is Josh and I will sign it in trust, which we've already got the process going. In other words, we sign it in trust, and if all these steps fall into place, everything will come together. Now, I cannot stress enough that if we don't work as a group, if we don't work as a community, any proposal we put before them will not fly. If we want the building used for the common good and the social benefit of the community with the focus on seniors, we have to be together as a group. So what we'll be looking for tonight, we passed out the document, our offer to purchase. We went over it already with the gentleman from Remax. They've agreed to polish it up and make sure the words are proper. They're going to capture the essence of each point, and they're going to include it in what they have as a standard offer that the hospital uses. It's quite a thick document, but they're going to include it in there. In other words, these would go in as our conditions. Okay, I'm getting to the part where we're going to have some public input, but there's just one more thing. We're going to go through each point. So I would ask that you bear with us, because they only connect all the dots when we get through them, and then we're going to open it to the floor for any additions, deletions, or any discussion. And what we want at the end of the meeting is we'd like a motion, like we've had at the other meetings, to give the offer to these two gentlemen here to bring it to the board. So I'd like to introduce Josh Welsh. You folks have met him before. And for those of you that don't know Josh, he's a high school student in Cornwall that's taken a keen interest in this issue. He's been at all the meetings that we've had all along, and his classmates and his schoolmates are talking about this very issue. So I'm going to let him explain issue number 1.
All right, thanks Mark, and good evening everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to break down the offer that Mark and I have that we're going to be submitting. So the first step is that we are allowed time to form a not-for-profit organization with a board of directors so that the future of the general hospital be used for the common good and that the social benefit of the area with the focus on the seniors. So this is necessary that we have to do this. As Mark mentioned earlier, that Barrie did the same thing, so we're kind of taking after their initiative. And it's just in terms of process as well. So I'll pass the mic back to Mark. He's going to give you guys the second item.
I just want to touch on one thing for item number 1. And when I keep saying about process, this is going to be our last meeting as a group. That the next meeting, it will be for a non-profit organization where we're going to have to elect a board of directors. There's going to be open elections, and there's a whole process you have to go through, but it takes a little bit of time to set that up. So that's item number 1. Item number 2 is we're offering the sum of $1, but it's conditional that the Minister of Health compensate the hospital board, because our fight or our argument is not with the hospital board. They're relying on the money that they get from that sale to go in to their facility, to their operating budget or their capital works. That money belongs to them. And they deserve that $2 million. They've been working their budgets around it. So it's conditional for us that we pay the dollar for it, but the ministry has to compensate them their $2 million. And there's ways for them to work that out, whether they give them the $2 million directly or some other type of funding or whatever. But it's important that we have the hospital board on our side on this issue. And they'll be getting their full price for the sale.
Okay, number 3.
Good.
You're Silver.
Hi, good evening. We went to the city and asked our mayor and city council to come forth with the task force so they can look into the needs of long-term care. But this building is more than just long-term care. It is a community building, and it's very important that we follow through with this. It's going to be all parts of, it's going to need the city, our MPP, the Minister of Health, Ontario Health Unit has already said that they're on board. This task force is very important, and they should have input on and as to whether they're going to allow this because it's going to be the land